Hello, hello, hello. Hola, hola a todos. Bienvenidos a un nuevo en vivo. Welcome to a new live stream. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. ¿Cómo están? Espero que estén muy bien. Today we're going to talk about how to use the Spanish word Sino. Sino. And before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and also click on the bell icon so you can get notified every time I live stream. Also, I want to give a big shout out to our members, to our Cafecito members, Raymond Sather, William Lopez, David Beaver, and KS. Thank you guys. The support is greatly appreciated. If you like what I do, please consider getting a membership. Just click on the join button down below if you want to know more about the perks and about the membership. Okay. Also, another way to support this channel is by giving the thumbs up. That helps me a lot as well. And we're live streaming, so you can use the live chat. If you have any questions, please feel free to just ask the question. Just say the question. Ask me a question. Maria Grazia Boccolini is on the live chat, and KS. Bienvenidos, muchachos. Welcome, guys. María Grazia Boccolini says, hola profesora, ¿qué tal? Yo no vivo en América, sino en Europa. Saludos a todos desde Italia. Saludos, María. Your Spanish is really good. And welcome. KS, ¿cómo estuvo tu día? Thanks for asking, KS. Mi día estuvo muy bien. Espero que el tuyo también. So, okay, let's get started, guys. As I said a few seconds ago, we're going to learn about the Spanish word sino. Sino. It's like saying yes and no, but all together. Sino. Sino is an adversative conjunction. I always have issues when I'm trying to pronounce. Well, I don't know how to pronounce conjunction, but I'm trying my best, guys. Sino is an adversative conjunction that's used in order to contrast two things. So you use it if you want to show some contrast. We actually had a lesson about some adversative conjunctions. So feel free to just browse my channel, and just find that video. I think it was one of the most recent ones. Okay, so sino is very similar to but rather, or instead. Okay, so you're just contrasting two things. And remember that conjunctions help us to unify or link different sentences. Okay, so if you have some sentence and if you want to add another one, then you need some conjunction. Okay, so today we're just gonna focus on sino. Okay, sino is the word that we're gonna talk about, and we'll see how to use it. There's a few, there's a few differences when using pero and sino. Okay, so pero, we talked about this word before. Pero indicates an exception most of the time. Okay, it's like giving excuses. You didn't do something, but for example, you will do it later. Okay. But yeah, pero means but as well. But this pero is more basic. It's a bit more simple. And of course, as I said, it indicates an exception most of the time. Okay. Sino doesn't mean an exception. So we're not saying an exception. We are saying a preference. We're referring to a preference, also to clarification, to any clarification, or some sort of contrast. Okay. Usually, the first part of the sentence is negative. So as I said, conjunctions link sentences. So if you have a negative sentence or a sentence that has the word no, then you will use sino or sometimes pero as well, okay? Usually that happens. But I would say with sino is usually you need a negative sentence. Let's see just one example of using pero. Just one sec. Okay. Just hang on a second. Okay. Yeah. So this example, no compré galletas, pero mañana lo haré. Okay. So you're saying that you didn't do something, but you will do whatever tomorrow. Okay. Whatever you need to do tomorrow. You can't use sino in that example. Pero is a better word for this. So, no compré galletas. Oops, I need red. No compré galletas. Wow, that's very thick. No compré galletas, pero mañana lo haré. Okay? So you're saying I didn't buy cookies, but I will tomorrow. Okay? So pero works perfectly there. You can't use sino. No compré galletas, sino mañana lo haré. So that sounds very weird. So pero is a better simple way to say but. Okay? Sino has different meanings, and let's see how to use sino in different situations. Okay. The first example is Miguel no quiere trabajar. Miguel no quiere trabajar. Okay? Miguel doesn't want to work. Sino descansar, but to rest, or he wants to rest. Okay? Miguel doesn't want to work, or does not want to work, but to rest. Miguel no quiere trabajar, sino descansar. So we're not saying we didn't do something, but I'll do it tomorrow. We're just saying a preference, okay? And sino is all about preferences. So if you want to say, I do not want to do this, but I want to do this instead, sino is perfect for that. In this case, we can see a negative sentence because we're using no. Miguel no quiere trabajar. Okay, Miguel doesn't want to work. Sino, but descansar. So that's the opposite of work. So Miguel doesn't want to work. He wants to rest. So essentially, that's what you're saying. And sino is great for that. It's perfect for that situation, okay? Let's look at the next example. María no viene hoy, sino mañana. María no viene hoy, sino mañana. This means Maria does not come in today, or doesn't come in today, but tomorrow, okay? So we are clarifying what's going on, okay? In this situation, you're not showing a preference. You're not talking about a preference, just as we did in the first example. We are talking about some clarification, and sino is great for clarifying situations. Okay, so again, we have a negative sentence. María no viene hoy. Maria doesn't come in today, okay? Sino mañana, but tomorrow. You can obviously change the clarification. You can say, sino la semana que viene, okay? But next week, okay? Or something like that. This is flexible, so you can just, if you need to clarify anything, you can use sino for that. It's a great word for sure. Okay, so the first example, we were talking about a preference, And in the second example, we are talking about some clarification. Okay. Now let's look at the next examples. We have quite a few examples, so that's gonna be good. If you have any questions, guys, feel free to ask. Hopefully I can answer all of your questions. Okay, Roger Mohan, welcome. Hola a todos. Hola, Roger. Patrick, will a native Spanish speaker be confused if I used pero instead of sino? That's a great question, Patrick. Welcome, by the way. Yes, it can be confusing. You can confuse someone if you're using pero instead of sino. For example, in this example, la ciudad no es segura, pero peligrosa. It sounds, technically, it makes sense. It's just a minor detail, but sino will go better, will sound better in those situations where you're clarifying, when you're showing any preference. And also, as I said in the beginning, let's just look at okay, here. Yeah, if you're saying here, if you're talking about preference, clarification, or some sort of contrast, okay? Pero indicates an exception most of the time. So technically, you could say pero instead of sino, but it's not gonna be. It's not the best option sometimes. Sometimes sino is the best word to use, as I said before. If you're showing any preference, any contrast, if you're clarifying something, or if you're showing some contrast. That's a great question. Okay, so let's look at the other example. Okay, this one. La ciudad no es segura, sino peligrosa. La ciudad no es segura, sino peligrosa. The city is not safe, it's rather dangerous. Okay? It's rather dangerous. In this situation, sino means rather. Once again, we have a negative sentence at the beginning of everything. And then we're showing some contrast. Okay? Safe, dangerous. There is a contrast there. We're saying the opposite, right? So sino is great for that too. La ciudad no es segura. The city is not safe. Sino peligrosa. It's rather dangerous. Okay? Showing a contrast. Very clear contrast. Now, the next one. Yo no soy alto, sino bajo. Yo no soy alto, sino bajo. Okay? So you're saying I'm not tall, I'm rather short. There's a contrast there as well. Alto, tall, bajo, short. Okay? So it's very important to use sino in those situations, because if you're saying pero, yo no soy alto pero bajo, it doesn't sound right. People will understand you, but if you want to master Spanish, you need to know how to use sino in different situations. Once again, the two examples that we just looked at are about contrast, some opposite things. Okay? Segura, peligrosa. Alto, bajo. Okay? So, yeah, keep that in mind. That's important. Okay. De nada, Patrick. Thank you for the question. It's a very good question. Okay. Now, the next example is los delfines. So this example is a bit more complex, more advanced. Okay. Los delfines y las ballenas no son peces, sino mamíferos marinos. Wow, okay, so that's a complicated sentence. Los delfines y las ballenas no son peces, sino mamíferos marinos. Okay? So, what are we saying? What are we saying here? We're saying, dolphins and whales are not fish. Dolphins and whales are not fish, but rather marine mammals. So we are clarifying here. We're not showing a preference. We're not saying a preference because, we're not talking about what we want. We're just clarifying a situation. Maybe some people think, people that you're talking to or having a conversation with, maybe they think that dolphins and whales are fish, but they're mammals, okay? So that is a very interesting example because we are just clarifying. You can see in this, like advanced Spanish sentence, you can see that Sino is right there. So Sino can be used in very simple sentences and also very complicated ones, okay? So that's why it's important to master Sino in Spanish. If you say pero instead of Sino there, it's going to sound weird. Los delfines y las ballenas no son peces, pero mamíferos marinos. You can still understand it because it's just one word, but Sino is just better for that situation. But rather, that's what it means. Sino, but rather. And remember, Sino has many meanings, some meanings. So that's why I'm showing you different examples so you get more familiar with Sino. Okay, the next example. No es un problema de una persona. No es un problema de una persona, sino de la sociedad. No es problema de una persona, sino de la sociedad. Okay, so this is another complex sentence. We're technically saying it's not a problem of a single person, but rather of society. Okay, so we're talking about society. We're saying that maybe a problem is not because it's not only affecting one person, but society, but rather society. So in this case, Sino means but rather, same as this one here. So if you have to say something complex like politics, different technical terms, you can use Sino, of course. Technically we are just showing some clarification. We're clarifying something, okay? So if you want to express something in Spanish, Sino is very, very helpful because if you want to, obviously, if you need to clarify something, man, you need the words. You need the correct words. Sino, but rather. Okay. Lastly, guys, we have 2 more examples and that will be it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay. No dijiste la verdad, sino que mentiste. No dijiste la verdad, sino que mentiste. No dijiste la verdad, sino que mentiste. This means you didn't say the truth, instead you lied. Technically, we are talking about that could be a contrast because truth, lie. Okay, so we're showing some contrast. It's the opposite, but also we're kind of clarifying what's going on. If you have to say that someone is a liar, you can use Sino. No dijiste la verdad, sino que mentiste. Sino que mentiste. And once again, negative sentence. Remember, if you want to use sino, you will have to use no first, okay? No dijiste la verdad, sino que mentiste. Okay. Usually that negative sentence goes before sino, okay? So that's important to remember the structure that you need to follow. No, sino, and then whatever comes next. Okay, I need some water. Okay, ¿qué es? ¿En qué situación debo usar sino? Once again, in a situation where you're either clarifying something, when you're showing some contrast, or when you are showing a preference, when you're expressing a preference, you want to say, I don't like this, but this other thing, okay? Sino is great for that. Those three things, three situations right there. And that's easy to remember, KS. So, yeah. Patrick, I'm used to saying pero. I'll keep this word sino in my mind. Haha. That's good. That's good. It's understandable. I mean, pero is so versatile as well. It's, I think, one of the first words that you learn when learning Spanish. And yeah, it's very helpful. So, pero is totally a good word as well. But sino as well. Sino too. Okay. Now, let's look at the last two examples. Oh, no, the last example, because we just read the first one. No dijiste la verdad, sino que mentiste. Now, the last one, guys, the last one is no fuiste a trabajar, sino a la playa. No fuiste a trabajar, sino a la playa. This means you didn't go to work. Instead, you went to the beach. Okay? I don't know if... I'm pretty sure those things happen. When you're calling in sick, you know, you're like, I don't feel too well, but then you go somewhere else. Well, that's dangerous, but you can get fired. So that's not good, but it happens. No fuiste a trabajar, sino a la playa. You didn't go to work. Instead, you went to the beach. And sino in this situation means instead. Just as in the first example, we're saying instead. Sino. So sino is very similar to instead. Okay. And yeah, you're technically clarifying something, or I don't know if you saw this person who went to the beach instead of going to work, but essentially you're trying to clarify, you're trying to express that, you know the truth. You know the truth. So sino is great for that as well. Clarifying preferences, and also what was the other one? If you need to clarify, if you want to talk about preferences, and I totally forgot the other one. Just once. Okay, preference, clarification, or contrast. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm a bit tired. It was a long day. But yeah, so that said, guys, I think it's not too complicated to understand sino. But remember, guys, that sino is for those situations when you want to say preference, clarification, or contrast. Pero indicates mostly exceptions. You know, you're just saying, I didn't buy cookies, but I will tomorrow. Okay? For example, no compré galletas, pero mañana lo haré. So, sino also means, remember, but in some situations, but rather, or instead. So those are the main meanings of sino. Very common meanings. And remember the negative sentence first, then sino, and then the rest, whatever, if it is a contrast, preference, or clarification. So remember that is structure. Negative sentence, sino, and then preference / clarification / contrast. Okay, so I think it's clear. I think it's clear. Let me know, guys, right now if you have any questions. Hopefully I can have some answers as well. Fi sla. Hi. Hola. 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 That's an interesting way to say hola. I like it. I like it too. Welcome. Fi sla. Sla. Man, sorry for butchering names and usernames and whatnot, but I see that everything seems to be clear. I don't see any questions. I'm glad. I'm really glad. If you want, in a future lesson, we can talk more about pero and sino, and we can show more examples, specifically using pero. So you understand more about, the differences between the two of them and when to use pero and when to use sino. So if you're interested, just let me know and we can do that as well. But today we just talked about sino. It's very, very easy. It's not that complicated. You need to practice though. You need to practice a lot and you'll see that you're gonna nail it. You're gonna get familiar using sino when you look at different examples, when you're listening to native Spanish speakers. That helps a lot too. And well, that's it. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching this video, this live stream, and thank you for participating. Thank you for interacting with me. I hope you liked this lesson, and if you did, please just give this video a like, and that helps a lot. If you're interested in getting a membership on this channel, you can just click on the join button down below. There are different perks when getting a membership. It's like $3 or so, and that supports this channel a lot. So yeah, you can check that out. And well, if you're not subscribed, please do so you get notified. Oh, you need to activate the what's it the bell icon, the bell notification thingy. Just click on it so you get notified every time I live stream. Thank you so much for watching. Remember that you can join our Spanish community on Discord if you're interested in that. That's completely free, so don't worry about any fees or whatever. You can just find the link to that in the video description down below. It's free, and yeah, there's people there. Sometimes last time I was playing some music in Spanish, yeah. And it was quite interesting. So if you want to chat with me and other people who are learning Spanish, you can do that for sure on Discord. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Be safe, take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time. Adios. Bye-bye.